And we are live. What is going on YouTube and Facebook Live? Season 2 of
Pew, pew, pew,
Taralyn,
pew.
Michelle, and Billy Wroe live. It's been 3 weeks off. Gotta say, missed you, my friend. I mean, we talk all the time, but it's just different when we're doing the show. How have you been?
I've been good. It's definitely different energy, and I missed you too. It's like being in this space together. I didn't know that I was gonna feel the lapse in time, but it's good to be back. Good to be back.
It is, it
So
is.
today, I see that look on your face, and I don't anyway.
I
Hey
ain't gonna
y'all,
start.
if you saw the flyer going around, then you know today is entitled "His Mystery, Her Prize." So this conversation today is one Billy and we have had so many different conversations in regard to men and women in relationships, and so we decided to explore this side of it for this conversation, but we did not come to do it alone. We have a panel that's going to be joining us very shortly, but before we bring them up to talk about this, I want to lay a little bit of foundation about what we're going to be talking about tonight. So, his mystery, meaning some of the things that he keeps unknown to the ladies, and her prize, him figuring that what he's keeping a mystery to us may be actually something that's good for us. Now, what am I referring to specifically? Scenario, right? So, you have a gentleman who's looking for that special someone, he's looking for that woman that he can have that vulnerability with, that connection, that lifelong lady. And so he comes across women who are looking for the same thing. The mystery is that he's connecting with women, letting them know that he's looking for that special someone, but not disclosing before he has sex with the woman that she ain't the one. The conversation, the vibe, and the connection is going because they have in common that they both want that special somebody. But why don't men just disclose if you're not the one, as opposed to playing to what it is that he thinks that she wants, knowing she's not the one, just to get her to bed? Billy, no, no, uh-uh.
There's so much to unpack here
Yeah,
that
yeah,
I'm actually glad that this is a panel conversation. Let me start off with that, and I can't wait to
yeah, me
bring
too.
everybody up because there's so much to unpack in really when you say his mystery. I remember when we first started talking about this, the his mystery portion. Sometimes I think that the mystery is even a mystery to the man,
Mm.
in not really knowing what he wants. And then after you find out what you want, I think there's a lot of external pressures that are placed on us, whether that be peer pressure, whether that be family pressure, whether that be societal pressures, that are placed on us in order to kind of keep this, I'm going to call it the facade of masculinity, because what it has been defined to be. And so sometimes it's that, but other times it's just the game that men can sometimes choose to play, in which they will act like they want things. And we had this conversation a little earlier today where they'll act like they want something and say all the right things to get what they want. And then now that they've received what they wanted, which was in the case of what you were saying is sex, now just like they were all in, now they're all out. And so I think there's so many different angles that this can come from. And the reason I keep shaking my head no is because I every for like 2 years you've been saying you need to do something in the relationship space, and I've been like, I don't want to do anything in the relationship space,
And
but
here you
yet
are.
here we are. So it is what it is. I can't wait to hear everybody's opinion, but for you, what do you think are some of the things that drive that mystery?
You know, I can't speak for the male perspective. I know that being on the receiving end of some of that, I feel like I love that you use the wording the game that men can play, because they have been allowed in many instances to play this game with women. And being having been on the receiving end of it before, I feel like it's more important to get what they want than to give the woman the opportunity to reject them, to say no. Now, you know, in the gate, you're going to reject the woman, but she shouldn't have the opportunity to do the same with you. And so I've had a lot of different men who I've had this conversation with. The response I typically get is the very superficial boys will be boys, basically that's just socially acceptable for men to do. We have penises and that's just the way it is, and case closed. But the only reason why I thought this conversation was important is because if that were true, if it were just as simple of, well, we can and we do and we will, and people we're just greedy. Let's take the greedy argument. If it's just that we're greedy and we just want to sample different women, then if it was something where you sampling was enough, I haven't met a man who's going around sampling all these different women who claim that he wants that special woman where that's satiating for him. It's something that never stops. So it's really not even fulfilling what his need is. So if you're not getting what you want from it, at least, other than the initial taste of a different woman, but if you're not getting what you want long term, which is what you say you seek, then there must be something else going on that, you're not having that conversation. And that's what I want to know. What's the real conversation behind it? Not just the, oh, well, yeah, boys will be boiling boys and we just greedy. I think it's more to it than that. And so I'm hoping that tonight we're able to get into a space where we can dive a little bit deeper and have some real, because now we have some mature, super dope men here tonight. These are not just some run of the mill men, So I'm looking forward to having a more substantial conversation. So, yeah. So with that being said, let's kick it off. Let's do it. Right. Coming up first to the stage. Oh, you're bringing them all up. Well, come on.
I was bringing everybody. I was flood the gate.
Let them all come in. Let them in. We have Keith
and I still put it back the right way.
Right, there you go. Keith Bryan of Master Key Realty. How you doing, brother? So good to have you here tonight.
Thank you.
Dr. Charles Dean, CEO of Love Radio Network and host of Embracing Love. Thank you so much for being here with us tonight. We have Miss Lisa Cleveland, my beautiful sister. She is a widowhood coach. Thank you so much for being here with us tonight, sis. And of course, the light, Miss Keisha LaLuz Carter. She is stage 3 cervical cancer survivor. Hey, girl, you got this, CEO. Thank you so much for being here, sis.
Absolutely.
So I know you all have been listening to what we've been talking about, and I'm going to go ahead. I think it's only right to start with one of the guys. So, Keith, what do you think about what you've been hearing so far? What do you think the reason is for guys not coming in and just disclosing, especially when they're looking for that special lady, being truthful about what it is that they want instead of sampling what they don't want?
Well, I think Billy has a point. A lot of times they don't know what they want. And with that being said, is you have to understand is that men are, for the most part, sexual beings. I mean, we literally lead on the physical side of things all the time. And so even if she isn't the right one, or it doesn't seem like she's on that path to be the right one, we can still get something out of it. And it sounds selfish in a sense, but it's almost like, maybe I just need to be around this person a little longer. Maybe I need to probably get physical with this person to see if there's something more there, right? But a lot of times what I really contributed to is he actually isn't ready. He's saying all the right things, but there's really something holding him back from actually, moving forward and actually communicating the things that he really wants. Partly because he doesn't really know. He just knows how to say the right things.
Lisa?
Well, I agree with you there, but I think that goes both ways in some cases because when you have two people who are unsure of themselves and they're going on a date together and they're trying to find their life in the other person, I think that they both get lost and they both start trying to fill in the blanks for the other person, and neither one of them are getting what they really want because they haven't taken the time to discover who they are, what their deal breakers are, and what the conversation is not going in the direction that it needs to go for them to even discover if there is a potential mate. Like I did a workshop before, how to go from date to mate. And sometimes there's not enough conversation in the initial to let you know whether this person even qualifies to be in your space to take up your time. you know. So you're sitting there and you're listening to him. You go, oh, me too, oh, me too, you know. But you're not really bringing your true self to the table. You came to the date without yourself. So you're both just looking to find a reason to see each other again instead of trying to find a reason whether it's even necessary to see each other again and being okay with that. You know, everybody is not the one, but they might have another place in your life. Like we talked before about business, you know, maybe it's something you're connected for another reason. Everything is not to become the one, you know. So I think we just got to take more time to discover who we are so that we're not wasting our time.
Absolutely. Dr. Dean?
Well, how deep do you want to get this? Um,
Listen, go on in there. I'm talking chest
Go
deep.
on and
I mean, because first of all, men are very visual creatures. That's bottom line. It's been that way forever and a day. We have had wars over women. We have had wars because a man wants that woman. So I do think that men know what they want. They just have this appetite to taste different women, go after this particular species.
Keisha's face, honey.
Hey, I said, how deep do you want to get? I mean, it's just it is what it is. But there are some men that actually know what they want. I mean, we can talk about young men 15, 20 years old that know that when I meet this woman, this is going to be my wife. I have been brought up in that manner of not being this type of man to run women or just go after sowing my oats and different things. And then there's training that men get when we all together. Like you don't bring sand to the beach, or there's no sense in telling her that you're going out of town for the weekend with the boys. I mean, you can get really deep in this.
Keisha?
When I think about this, I think about maturity. I think about trauma. I think about, we are on different spectrums as men and women. However, like Dr. Dean mentioned, our how we were raised may play a role in it, but also our maturity level. They say women mature more faster than men, but I think it also has to do with where you are mentally. What do you want out of life? Have you made that decision? And if so, who do you want to have that life with? I know some men who have great careers, but they don't want to settle with one person because they would rather a piece of a woman and another piece of a woman so that I can have a variety of choices. This woman does this and this woman does that. And instead of, finding one that meets your standards, that share your values. And then from a female perspective, it's the same thing. A lot of women settle because they want a piece of a man rather than having a whole relationship, communication, setting your standards and matching your values. And that's something that isn't often talked about. I can't say it's not talked about because I know we have circles like this where we do talk about it. However, growing up, it was not something that I heard commonly. It was either men bashing women, or women bashing men, or, like Dr. Dean said, I'm not taking, how does it go? I forgot the phrase, whatever to the beach.
Thank
Taking sand to the
Right.
beach.
It's a lot of secrets going on, keeping things hidden because there's a lot hidden on the inside of them, men and women. And so when you have two broken people coming together, what do you expect? Then you have the mystery of a man is that, from Keisha's perspective, oftentimes they haven't been nurtured, or they haven't been taught how to treat a woman, how to listen to a woman, and then it's on both. I can look at both sides of the coin, men and women, how we could change the dynamics of this. But I would say, for the most part, from my personal experience, like Taralyn said, my personal experience with men, it changed once Keisha, said, I don't care, I'll be single for the rest of my life. I'm not changing my standards. I'm not changing my expectations. And I'm holding you to your word. Once that changed, the type of men that I was attracting to me changed. So I'll start with that.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I'm listening to I think everyone in some respect, when they were talking, can relate to the piece of a person type of thing that people go through. Men not knowing what they want, but until they figure it out, I'm just gonna say what I need to say to be with somebody, or just piece of this, piece of that. But that's the thing that's confusing, because a piece isn't a whole. And at the end of the day, you have so many people looking for that whole experience with a person, yet you have people who are accepting fragmentation, and other folks running around just saying what they got to say while they figure it out. And now for the men, and Billy, I'm sorry, I guess that probably should have been you next. But for the men, I think what I want to know is, fast forward to the space where, because I think for everybody within the lost decade, I call the 20s the lost decade, and sometimes up into the 30s, we don't really know what we want. We know what we've seen and what we've heard, but it's not until you really start to know yourself as an adult that you really get keen on, okay, this is what I think I may want. So for the men, when you get to the space where okay, I want my lady, I want her. Well, when I look, that's me. That's what I'm looking for. Why is it that you have so many men in that space where they say, this, now I know that I'm looking for somebody for me. Yet while they're looking for that somebody for them, they're entertaining women that they know is not the person for them, because they know she's interested in looking for that person for her too. It's like they're preying off of the fact that I know that we have this in common, and I know she ain't it, but I'm still gonna go ahead and do that. I want to understand, why would men be in a space where you're clear what you're going for, but then you still moving in the opposite direction? What's that about?
I think part of that, to Keisha's point, is maturity, but I look at maturity sometimes a little differently than most people, because it's not an age progression. To me, maturity is almost like the things that we have been taught along the way. When you don't know, you don't know. And a lot of people don't take the time to reflect on why they're even making the decisions that they're making. One of the things that I had to reflect on, because my lost decade was like a lost decade and a half. So in my lost decade and a half, I had to reflect on why I was making the decisions that I was making, why I could find somebody that had potential to be compatible, but then be distracted by somebody who I knew was not even in the running for being the final contestant on Who Wants to Be. What'd you say, Lisa?
The one.
The one. So I think part of that is the maturity, the things that we don't know what we don't know. But the other part of that is, especially from the masculine perspective, is rejection hurts. And unfortunately, in that maturity aspect of the things that we are not taught as men, I can tell you, I wasn't taught how to handle rejection. I wasn't taught how to handle emotions of hurt, emotions of sadness. I was taught anger, violence, and pettiness. Those were like the top three on the things that I was taught. It wasn't until I was well into my 30s that I started learning about compassion, standards, and things of that nature. Not standards for others, but standards for myself. Mm-hmm. And so when I went back into the dating world at like 36 or 37, I can't remember now, but when I went back into the dating world, I went in with standards. And so now I can go on a date with a person, and it's not about what can I get from them physically. It's about compatibility. And it takes sometimes it takes hard-headed people such as myself, quite a few lumps, to get to that space where you're able to say, okay, yeah, I mean, not to be vulgar, but vagina is, you can get that anywhere. Like, you can go out, I can go outside of my neighborhood and I guarantee there's a vagina out there somewhere. So if that's the case, I can't make this long-term plan or this long-term goal. I can't set a long-term goal based on physicality. Yes, I do believe there needs to be some sense of attraction there, but I can tell you when my oldest son's mother and I were together, she was very beautiful, and people were always like, "Oh my God, she's so beautiful! She's so beautiful! She's so beautiful!" But that was all that person had to offer, was that beauty. And then after you started getting to the sub layers of that, it was like, yeah, the beauty isn't even enough to maintain all the other stuff that comes with that. So when Keisha says a piece of a woman or a piece of a man, what became hyper or super critical for me in my journey and my standards was the person that I'm with has to be able to understand and respect my need for peace, not a piece of her, but my peace, my sanity, and my stability, because that is what state I need to be in order to make the better choices for the overall relationship. So I think from your perspective, why do they keep looking? It's a fact of maturity, but I think sometimes it's what we have not been taught, but other times what we have yet to learn and to accept about ourselves. The reason why I am committed to my wife is because, hey, I know we're going to have bad days. I know we're going to argue. I know we're going to have struggles. But at the end of the day, we always come back to each other and try to work through that. And that means, hey, I got somebody who's not going to quit. And when you're a man, that's one of the things that really drives this behavior is, I'm going to show her something that she doesn't like. Keisha, to use your word, I'm going to show her something that doesn't meet her standard. And she's going to abandon me. She's going to leave. She's going to quit. And that will make you say, let me go ahead and get a king, a queen, and a joker, even though I got an ace. I yield the mic in my clubhouse.
You yield the mic.
Too much synonym, CNN.
Lisa, what do you think, sweetie?
Well, I understand what you're saying, and you made some valid points and everything, but I think going back out into this dating world, having been married for so long, and my husband and I dated, and we got engaged on the third date, and we were married 3 months later. And it was basically because we both knew what we wanted. And also we both believed in God, that he was first in our lives. So it was easy for us to commit, not because we thought the other one was perfect, but because we knew our love and commitment to God was perfect, and that we were going to both come to agreement to agree with the word. Now, everybody you date today is not going to be a Christian. And if they are, they may not be following the word. Let's just deal with it, making that the final decision. But we were able to do that. And we had a wonderful marriage that lasted till death did us part. So coming from that, my husband was also a senior pastor of a church, and I was an associate pastor at the time. And we did a lot of conferences on marriages. We did a lot of, he taught manhood. We had built strong men because he was very firm on the manhood and God's original plan for mankind. So he taught that. So it's difficult for me coming from having a man that understood his role in the household and in my life as the head, and me knowing that I could respect and trust his word because he didn't break his word. He did what he said he was going to do. And when he said he wasn't going to do it, he didn't do that either, right? And I learned to trust what he said, so dating now, coming back into the scene, and we don't have a lot of men that tell the truth. And I did something very different, going on a dating site, something that I had never done before. And I met people, and then I found out they weren't who they said they were. And they said they were single, and these were married men on a dating site looking for women. And it was just disappointing to me to know that this is the pick of the litter now. We know a good man is hard to find. If you get one good time, you're done good, right? But trying to find that in another person and having so much knowledge about being a strong man, when I go out on a date, I find it very disappointing sometimes because I don't want to give you the answers. I want you to come to me and tell me where you at, where you going, what's your deal breakers, what's good for you, you know? And I feel like even when I try to be understanding, because I know that, you know, good man is slim to none these days sometimes, but, you know, and especially in the black race, because I love my black men, you know? So if I want to be with a black man and he does have himself together, he got a plethora of women that he can choose from. So how do you stand out and find one that you say, well, you know, he a little rough, but I can work with him. And you start working, you become more of a counselor or social worker to that person. And they take what you say and love to talk to you, but then they feel intimidated by that and go meet somebody else and use all your training to impress them because they don't feel like they can impress you. So you end up right back in the same position. Now you're like the bestie that they want to call for all the good advice and help them build a business and do those things, but you're not the one, you know, because they can't impress you. So it's a little difficult out here as a single woman to be that strong woman of standard with morals with men who, you know, got such a pick. And especially with our black men, all the women of all races want you guys, but they ain't all coming after us, you know, because of the stereotypes and the stigmas that's put on a strong, moralistic, beautiful black woman. You know, you say you want us, but then you're challenged by us or you buy into the stereotype about us. So it's like, you know, will you ever really meet that person? And if you do, you start saying, well, maybe I have to compromise on this. And maybe, because like she said, we want a piece of man. We do want a man. I mean, I'm not ready to go gently into that good night. You know, this woman's still alive over here, you know? So it's like, how do I find somebody to love me for what all I bring to the table without being challenged by it or taking advantage of it?
Key?
I will say it like this. You're not going to be able to control if that man is legitimate or not. That's really not really what your purpose is going to be. Your purpose is really to stay focused on who it is that you want to be and who it is that you want to attract. And the way that you attract that individual is usually by working on yourself. And that's where your focus is. There's always going to be snakes.
Yeah,
There's always going to be snakes. And, you know, a lot of times these people, they put on this front about who they are, and then all of a sudden you see something else come out. Sometimes I think that when we're looking at what that person is supposed to be like, I think sometimes we get in the way of ourselves. Sometimes we try to control too many factors in the standards that we're trying to uphold, right? It's not saying, oh, you know, let me lower my standards. I mean, obviously there's some non-negotiable standards that you should always have. Mm-hmm. At the same time, there are some standards that can be worked with that should be malleable, right? Mm-hmm. And what I mean by that is sometimes your Boaz, right, in the Bible, your Boaz might be someone that you didn't anticipate being initially. And it takes time to notice that person because they might have all the things necessary, all of the potential that's there, but on paper up front, it doesn't look that great. But all of those values, all of those things that are there for that person to become the one that you want, they have all the attributes. It's just hidden. Yeah. And sometimes it's just taking time to allow that to flourish, to allow that person to mature. And it's weird because a lot of times we're focused, we're like, I have somewhere I want to be. There's somewhere I'm trying to go. And if you're not already there, please, I'm gone. Yep. Like, I don't have time. I'm not trying to train you. I'm not trying to teach you. I'm not trying to do any of that, right? But at the same time, I think that a lot of times we miss our blessings on that too. Because it's not necessarily trying to teach someone. It's
Right.
just we have a lot. I think we hit on this a lot, but we have a lot of trauma, especially in the Black culture, that we are trying to get through. There's stuff that we have to get over ourselves as men, especially if we didn't have a male figure to even look up to see what is it like to actually be a husband? What is it like to actually court someone? What does it look like to actually treat a woman the way that she should be treated, right? And what does it actually look like to even work on myself? There's a lot of things that we're still working through, right? And vice versa, right? Even with the women. So with that being said, I think a lot of times we can put our trust in God to say, you're going to bring that right person to me. Allow me to have the eyes to see that individual for who they are. And while you're doing that, let me work on myself to attract the right individual.
I want to just piggyback off of what you just said, P. Brian. And I mean, that's fine. But when you look at like myself, I'm 57 years old. Okay. So I'm not dating young men. Okay. I'm dating full grown men who done had enough life experiences to know better. Okay. So when you're dating a fully grown man and you're feeling like he hasn't had that role model in his life, he's still carrying on like a child, and making poor decisions, you know, those are some of the issues that I have. It's kind of hard because you don't want to mother your man, especially when you want to submit to this man and you want to trust that this man is a man of his word and gonna do what he say he gonna do. It's just difficult to just give them a pass when they're 57 or older. They are who they are at that point.
And that's where you're making that decision, is that's a standard that you're either is non-negotiable, right? Or you say, you know what, maybe this, sometimes people have some things they have to work on, but you can tell by their actions that they're actually a good candidate. Exactly. And what I mean by that is wait a minute, what is your history? What's your past? Let's say, for instance, this person was actually married to someone and struggled during that whole marriage, but was doing all the right things to try to make that marriage work, and wasn't even able to work on themselves because they were so focused on working on someone else.
Right.
That they were selfless in that marriage during that time period. That you're like, wait a minute, this person actually has a really good heart. He's making some mistakes, but I can tell by his actions, his past, that where his heart is really at. And so sometimes that's some of the things is like Billy was saying, it's maturity is not just about age. There's a lot that has to go into maturity. There's a lot of experiences that you've gone through in life, and maybe mature in so many other areas, but in the one that you're looking for, maybe not so. So I mean, there's some things there, but again, it's about understanding what it is that you are. What are your non-negotiables, and what are the things you're willing to work with in an individual? And again, just focusing on yourself, because I think there's a lot of times that even we have certain traumas where we're afraid of certain things, right? So we want to have control over certain things because there's a fear that's tied to it. What is the fear of? Do I have to teach this person to do this? There has to be some type of fear that's linked to that, right? Or some type of past trauma that's saying, if I truly do love this person, I actually do want the best for them. So what's wrong with me just dropping a little bit of knowledge for that person so they can elevate?
Can I interject a little bit?
Oh, go ahead, Dr. D.
Yeah, Dr. D.
All right. So there are so many levels to what we are speaking about, and it goes very, very deep, because we're talking about the root of the relationship. And back in the day, women went towards men or allowed men to be with them because there was a different standard on how the man reacted. Men went out and worked and did what they did and brought things home to the family and had the wife, but they also cheated on the other side. But it was because women didn't, and forgive me for what I'm about to say, but some men are, as they are titled, some men are like dogs and they have to be trained. And for that woman to come along, she has to know her standards, she has to know who she is, and she will train him. Now, he already might have the purpose to be this wonderful husband, wonderful father, pastor. He'll have all the spiritual grounds of everything in there, but he is still a man and he is still human. And from the beginning of time, men have just been buck wild. So the woman has to know the foundation of who she is, which is kind of hard because that also hasn't been taught to so many women. But if you get the woman that knows her foundation, who she is, then that man is not going to just walk over her or do what he does, in her life. There are so many women that dated guys or started dating guys, and after a couple of dates, he's gone. He's ghost. And that's because she showed her standards of who she is as a woman. She laid the foundation for what she wants in a relationship. And he was out there just willy-nilly trying to hit everything or trying to move around, even if he had a girlfriend or a wife or whatever the case may be. But the girl he got with knew who she was. So he's gone. He's ghost. And that's what so many women need to do. And when they do find that man that they see, because bottom line, I know men seem to rule the world, but we can't have this world without women, bottom line. And
We need each
and
other.
the women need to lay that foundation as that helpmate for that man. And all of those purposes and godly things and dreams will come together in that relationship.
Keisha?
Mm. There's so many things that have gone through my head as I've been listening. One of the things that I think about is that we are all evolving. So, regardless of who we get with, we're changing every day. And so, one of the big things for me that I think from I've been single. I was single for a long time until last year, and I would ask a lot of questions to different couples that I would come across who've been together for 10, 20, 50 plus years. And so, as Dr. Dean was saying, with the standards, women saying, this is what I'm going to allow in my life and this is what I'm not going to allow in my life. And I think that as women, we have to stand our ground, period. Not let any wiggle room, no matter how bad we want it, no matter how they make me feel, no matter how good they smell, no matter how they, check off almost all, because I say almost because there's something missing. They checking off all of these boxes, but they're not healthy, right? So I was in a relationship and the relationship was so toxic, but I wanted that man at that time. And I stayed in that relationship because I saw the potential. So yes, there is potential. We find potential. We come across potential. But as women, sometimes we lock in on the potential, but we overlook the red flags, as they call them. And so those red flags are there for a reason. We have discernment. We have, spiritual intuition. However, we ignore it so that we can have that comfort. We don't want to feel abandoned. We don't want to be left alone. We want that companionship, the communication. We want to feel wanted. We want to feel needed. Well, this man, like Lisa said, he has, let's say, a plethora of women. But how many of those women are holding their ground, setting their standards, and keeping their word, being consistent on what they say and what they do? That's why I love what Keith said. When we as people, not just the women, but also men, when we focus on what we need, focus on our mental health, focus on our strengths, our weaknesses, our goals, knowing more about who we are, that helps us to recognize those dogs, those sheep, what do you call it? Those wolves in sheep clothing. Thank you. We recognize that when we focus on ourselves. And I'm not saying being selfish, but just understanding more about who you are. What are some things that you like? What do you like? What don't you like? Why don't you like that? Why does it hurt you when they don't pick up the phone? Why do you feel neglected, abandoned? Why are you hurting? Because I think when we get down to the nitty-gritty of why we're hurting, I stopped dating. It was hard. One of my friends held me accountable, and she said, come on, Keisha, let's start 2021 off strong. We're gonna fast from dating for 3 months. And I was like, girl, ooh, this is tough, because I was like, some women like looking at the age thing. For me, I have a daughter, and I'm not unable to have any more children, so that wasn't my issue. But I want to be done with the dating world. I just want to be in a relationship, be done with the dating world. No. And so I think some women want it for different reasons, and they get to the point where it's like, okay, I just want what I want, and that's it. Well, when I focused on myself for those 3 months, I literally worked on that emotion of, because I think emotional intelligence is so important for both men and women. But as women, we are very emotional. And so I worked on my emotions, and I recognized that I don't have the relationship that can take its time. I can breathe and follow their word. As Keith said, I'll say my bonus father, he always says, I'm not listening to what you say, I'm listening to what you do. And so dating, I don't care what you say. You could tell me all the good, feel good, fuzzy stuff, and I may turn the phone and be like, oh girl, oh my gosh. But at the end of the day, I'm going to be following your patterns. Mm-hmm. I'm going to be looking at what you do. I want to see that you're consistent in what you say. I want to see that you're consistent in what you do. I want to see that you're consistent in how you treat me in the front of people and behind closed doors. I want to see that you're consistent in how you treat yourself, how you love yourself, how you, as Keith said, a man that's working on himself is sexy to me. Because if he's working on himself and I'm working on myself, because that's the type of woman that I am, just imagine us being in a relationship where we can work on ourselves together. Exactly. You tell me, what books are you reading? But he's really reading them, and he's talking to you about them, right? You know what you say, Lisa?
He legit cracked it. He could tell you about chapter 6,
right?
Beyond the cover.
I mean, he recognized that he wants to get his health right. He's not perfect. None of us are perfect. That was another thing that I worked on while, through this dating game or whatever you want to call it. I remember writing out the list. Anybody ever been told, write out your list? Yeah. What are those things that you want? What are your non-negotiables, right? But there are some things on there, I remember watching a video somewhere. Sometimes we're looking for a perfect man. There is no perfect man. And I had to come to grips with that. I'm not going to find a perfect man. What are some things that I just might be able to live with? It may get on my nerves, but I'm going to probably have some things that gets on his nerves too. you know, and what are those non-negotiables, and standing on them, but being realistic and know that you're not going to find a perfect man or woman. She's gonna have some stuff. You got your stuff. You know you got your stuff. Why are you expecting her to be perfect? Why are you expecting him to be perfect? You know? And so I think looking at our flaws as well as our strengths and bringing that to the table together and saying, you know what? I struggle with this. Are you whole enough? Are you healthy enough mentally to be able to come to the table once y'all, you know, date enough to be able to say, you know what, this hurts me. I'm broken here. I was hurt as a child when, you know, this and that happened to me. And we can come together and have that conversation and work through it. How are we going to heal from that? How can we be in a relationship for 25, 50 years if we can't even communicate about what areas we need to improve on? And so going back to this, and I'm going to be quiet, is that understanding that, because one of the things I heard Lisa, and I could be wrong, so, you know, please correct me, is one of the hardest things being in a relationship that is healthy, or that is, you know, that has been successful, is one of the hardest things is not comparing when you get into a new relationship. And so I think that's another thing. Some people say, I look for my mother or I look for my father in a relationship, depending on the type of I saw Taralyn's eyes, you know, depending on, because some people have had healthy relationships with their mothers or their fathers. And so when they get older, they're like, man, this woman, she don't cook like my mama, she don't clean like my mama, or she doesn't, you know, or, you know, this man doesn't do this like my dad treated my mom. You know, we cannot expect that in a relationship. But what is the best that they can bring? Are they striving to be their best? And that's what I see, or what I say in relationships as we are dating, as we're courting. I think if a man is not ready, then I know a lot of women can't handle it. I prefer you to tell me. Exactly. This is what I'm, you know. And when I was dating, I had several men who told me, look, I'm just here, you know, I'm not looking for marriage. I'm not looking for, you know, a serious relationship. Thank you for letting me know. As a woman, you got the same thing, flip the coin. You have some women who don't know what they want, who just out there sleeping around, tell the truth, shame the devil, because they're not ready for a commitment. So
I just want to piggyback off.
I have to real quick, Lisa, real quick, because I'm gonna forget. Because this is all good stuff. I'll say this. Well, first of all, because you saw my facial expression with the parent thing, I think that's not even about negative relationships. I even say with positive relationships, I think that's weird.
It happens. So.
I know it does. And I think it's bizarre. Yeah. I really do. I think it's weird for somebody to run around trying to find their mother or father. And let's say this was a great relationship in their mate. I don't know. That's just me. I can understand you saying that if you're a man, you value your woman cooking for you. Maybe that's an expression of love. Maybe that's an expression of closeness. I can get that. But actually looking for, that ain't my mama's frosting. That ain't your mama. Would you bang your mother? I don't get it. That's just me. So that's that right there.
I think it's the terminology that people have grown accustomed to saying.
Yeah, no, look, I know exactly what you mean. I just think that even the thought process, because I know what they mean. Even still, I still think it's bizarre. I just do. I don't want. Yeah.
But I want to piggyback off you in regards to the comparison. And that was an issue for me. I'm not even going to lie about that.
That's hard.
When my husband first died, of course, I was broken. You know, it took a while to get healed. Even when I thought I was okay, I wasn't. And I was still stuck in that relationship mentally, you know, and what his values were toward the marriage and his characteristics and stuff like that. And I had to work on me. And I took that time to work on me because I recognized through my dating that I was doing that. And I had one person say, you talk about your husband a lot. And I didn't think I did. But when I thought back on the conversations, I said, you really got some issues. You really need to work on that. And I realized in working on me that I didn't even want to be that person that I was with him anymore. I was beyond that. Like you said, we're constantly growing. I like the funner side of me. I didn't like always having to be on the stage and always having to be careful what I said and what I did and what I wore and all of these things. So I felt like I was so pinned into a certain stereotype of what a pastor's wife looked like, or how I'm supposed to conduct myself as a woman of God, even, And I'm a happy, free person. I mean, I'm really cool. And I wanted that person to come alive. I wanted to show up in my own life. So at this juncture in my moving forward, I like Lisa better now. And I don't even want what I had before. I'm not looking for that. Now, certain characteristics, I want to be able to believe what you say. I can work with you because our values change. I mean, when I was younger, I wanted a father for my kids. I wanted a role model. My kids is grown with their own kids now. So I'm not looking for a daddy for my children. You know what I'm saying? So I had to get myself in the right frame of mind to understand, well, Lisa, what is going to complement your life at this time? How do you see your life moving? What do you want your mate to be able to complement what you want to complement with him in his walk? So it's all about being grown and fun now. I'm not even trying to find no damn examples or nothing. Right. Of course, I want you to have some stability about yourself. You know what I'm saying? But I'm really looking to just enjoy my life with someone right now and know that we're in it to win it. That, we're not looking outside of each other and still trying to find pieces, especially at this time of our lives, because, it's hard to stick with someone at this age. You don't have that time to go back and remember their youth. You know what I'm saying? You're in it right now for the future. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, the whole thing with me right now is I love Lisa. And I know that even though I'm willing to compromise on you, don't have to be perfect, but you got to be something. And most of all, you got to be available and you got to have yourself together. I'm not looking for projects anymore, not at this stage.
You touched on something that it was actually where I was going. I think that there are so many people out there who are dating, seeking something, and they haven't even become what they're looking for.
Exactly.
And they wonder why they're attracting something that's opposite of what they're looking for. I think it's a lot of audacity. And I'll speak for the ladies because the ladies do usually have this ridiculous list. Some of the stuff when I'm sitting around with my girlfriends, they always tell me, you talk like you're one of the men. No, I just see your list and it just seems like what you want somebody to shake some pixie dust on a brother and all of a sudden he become all that, because the stuff it doesn't make any sense. And really, other than the fact that you just feel like you're worth that, it really doesn't have anything to do with the big picture of what it means to build a life with somebody. Mm-hmm. It's stuff that's superficial. It really doesn't mean anything. But if you have your happiness affixed to something that truly is meaningless in the grand scheme of things, doesn't accomplish anything long term for both of you when you talk about sustainability, not only of a life that you build together, but that whole thing that Key, all of the men have mentioned, when you talk about growing together with somebody. Exactly. Well, how do you grow together with somebody if somebody, this imaginary person, is coming already fully developed? You're not even fully developed, but you want him to be?
Come on now.
So how about becoming what it is that you seek? Exactly. How about that? Which means that means you would have to, like Keisha, you said, pull yourself from the dating pool and take a look at that first. Now, I want to ask the men, because there have been so many different things that have been going around. I think it's good for ladies that are watching. Oh, and even before I do that, if those of you watching and in the chat, if you want to join us, you can join us live on stage. If you're not scared, come on. You ain't got to be scared. Come on. Anyway, you want to stay in the chat, that's fine. You can join us live. But I want to ask the men, because Billy, listen, I talked to Billy. Let me tell you something. I don't belong in the dating pool because I don't know game. I don't. I'm very black and white. Listen, I can put it. Some people, yeah, I know when I don't know nothing. I'm a little lamb being led to slaughter. I'm gonna tell you that because I don't think like that. And then, being married 20 plus years, and it's been a long time, since I've been out in that situation. So you men know some of the tactics, some of the things that men use, some of the ways in which things are phrased, where lots of times, admittedly, women, we ask the wrong questions.
That's what it is.
We ask the wrong questions. But also, too, we don't really understand a lot of the depth of some of the meaning of things that men say. That part too. So I want to know for the ladies that are watching and listening, you catch us on a replay or whatever. What are some things, some things that ladies should look out for? Some areas in which we do ask the wrong questions. Some dead giveaways that maybe what you think this is ain't actually it. I'm gonna start with Billy because I know he don't want me to. You're up.
Okay. All right. So the conversation we had after the last panel interview when we were talking about commitment versus accountability, this is an interpretation issue between men and women, where men see commitment. I can be committed as a man. I go to my job every day. I arrive on time for our dates. I'm here. I'm where I'm at. Where I'm saying when I'm going to be there. I'm there. That's commitment. I'm committed to doing those things. And a woman will say, well, do you have commitment issues to a man? And they look at it from, do you have an issue with it just being us, with us being exclusive? And a man will say, no, I don't have any commitment issues because he's going through this checklist in his mind of the things that he is committed to. Mm-hmm. No, I don't have any commitment issues. Not associating that to the relationship and being committed to the actual relationship. But where the language changes is, do you have a problem with being accountable? Do you have a problem with me holding you accountable to the exclusivity of this relationship? Then now it's not about, oh, well, I'm committed to the things that I do. It's now about, oh, well, yeah, if I'm out doing my thing, I might have a problem if you're calling me and checking on me or seeing what time I'm going to make it. Now I'm dealing with the term of accountability. So I feel like there's sometimes within the male and female diaspora that there's these language shifts that take place, and where we're using words that make sense to us from our perspective, but they're not being interpreted in the same manner. Now, one would think, well, commitment is commitment, and that, when you get married, you're committed to that marriage. But in the dating realm, we're not talking about being committed to marriage. We're talking about my commitment in general, in my mind. And I used to think that, like, no, I don't have a problem with commitment. I could be committed to anything. I'm committed to my kids. I'm committed to going to work. I'm committed to paying my bills on time. Like, I'm committed. No commitment issues. And then when somebody says, hey, I called you last night and you didn't answer, I wasn't like, are you questioning my commitment?
Right.
It was a challenge of my accountability. Wait, I didn't say I wanted to be accountable to telling you when I didn't answer my phone what I was doing. Now that I'm married, if my wife says, hey, you didn't answer when I called, oh, I was on the phone with Taralyn. Oh, I was cleaning the kitchen, didn't hear the phone ring. Now I'm okay with that accountability because the relationship is in a perspective in which I can see that I need to be accountable. But when we're in this dating realm and we're really trying to figure out things, this is why for me, when I first started dating again, I was like, I don't want to sleep with nobody. I don't want to sleep with nobody because I already understand this game. Women are going to use sex to get love and men are going to use love to get sex. I'm not interested in playing that game. So there'd be times where I'd show up for dates, and because I have no problems with now accountability going into these dates, hey, I just want to go and hang out. We'll have a good conversation. Not looking for sex. Don't worry about that. So I'm not bringing anything sex related to this encounter. And then we get there and the woman switches up on, oh, he's attractive. Like you said, Keisha, he's attractive. He smells good. He's saying the right things. He's gainfully employed. He has a structured path that he's following.
Bra pop.
Some.
Right.
And I'm like, no, that's not what I'm here for. And this now, in my opinion, has disqualified you from future interactions because you also agreed to that you weren't here for the sex. My wife and I didn't even engage in like kissing for like the first 30 days of dating. It was just like, hey, we had a good connection. I invited her over for dinner. It was like letting you know this is just dinner, not Netflix and chill, not, well, if you like the meal, then maybe there'll be some dessert. None of that. Just dinner. And so I think that sometimes the language shift that takes place, and until we can become very clear on saying what we mean and not just saying what we think they'll understand, like then you can go back to that, hey, I told you I didn't have a problem with commitment, but I do have a problem with being accountable to somebody who has an expectation of me that I'm not in a relationship with. And that's another aspect of, I think, where men and women kind of differ in the dating. Sometimes I feel like women more so than men want to jump into exclusivity. Men may want to jump into the woman being exclusive to them, but them not being exclusive to the woman.
True.
So women want this exclusivity up front, and it's really hard to give that when I don't know you. I don't know you.
Billy, that goes both ways. I have, and I told you this when you and I were talking, when we talk so much off air, that back in the day, I've never had a man break up with me before, ever. Been married before. I was always the one leaving relationships, leaving marriages, this type of thing. I've had several men break up with me that I'm not in a relationship with. And that's because, listen, it's like how you get fired on Friday, your day off. You get broke up with people and you ain't in a relationship with them. I get broke up with all the time. And let me tell you why. And it's because people you just meet, he cool, he smell good, he doing his thing or whatever. That's sexy, all that. But it takes a bit more than that for me. And immediately it's like, we want to act like we're dating. Nah, bruh, I don't know you. You smell good. You know, you're successful. You're doing your thing. We vibe, conversation. I'm silly. They like that. All that stuff. You know, but immediately it's this whole, you know, now I got a responsibility to call you and all this kind of stuff. And it's not that I don't vibe you. That has to, that type of thing. I'm an old school woman. That should happen gradually and naturally. It shouldn't have to be where I just meet you and now I have to remember to be connected to you to call you. That should just happen naturally, you know? So it's like they want to push things along. And when I was talking to Billy about it, he said, well, some men, if they're trying to feel you out and they want to sleep with you, but they feel like you won't, if you're not in a relationship, they'll push the relationship. Well, that's the reason why I keep getting broke up with. And I'm not in a relationship with you because it's not, listen.
You're not thirsty enough.
I'm setting a record for getting dumped by men that I'm not in a relationship with. So I mean, it's cool. I don't lose any sleep. This one, I'll tell y'all this real quick. This one guy I was talking to. Well, I'd say talking to loosely because I literally mean like talking to like how we're doing. At least this was my understanding of the situation. I think my reasoning was flawed. But anyways, so I'm talking to this person. And he said when we were talking one time, oh yeah, blah, blah, blah. Well, give me a call back tomorrow or something. And I said, okay, because I didn't mind doing that. Well, I forgot. And so some time went by. And so he calls me and he's like, well, I didn't hear from you. And I was like, oh, you were supposed to hear from me? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, oh man, it's been a couple of days. He's like, no. And I'm like, a week? He's like, no. I was like, a week and a half? He was like, no, way more than that. Come to find out, it was like 2.5 weeks I forgot to call this dude. He just called because I never called. And I was like, it's not personal. See, that's the thing. You can't just decide that I'm supposed to have a connection with you that is not happening naturally. See, it's weird stuff like that. So it's not just the ladies who do that. It's the men who do that thing too, instead of there being an organic progression. But Key, I know, y'all, I'm sorry. Y'all got to deal with me. You stuck with me. That's it. Sorry.
y'all trying to get us in trouble.
You got to break the code, brother. You have a beautiful wife. You have to break the code.
Break the code. No,
one single man on here that's giving an opinion. Everyone else is married.
Yeah, I'm married.
I'm married.
Everybody's married.
Dean, you're single, aren't you?
No, I'm married.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
So we got all married men giving their perspective. So how long has it been since you guys been even in the dating scene? Do you know what's going on
Well,
today?
well,
okay,
Dr.
so
Dean, I know for you it's been like forever because you've been like,
well,
what have you been like married 20, 30 years?
well, we went through our thing and our separation and divorce and remarried again. So that's what gives us that platform of coming back together. I mean, we've had our ups and downs, but again, when you're thinking of purpose of where you're supposed to go after all these years, you go, you separate, you divorce, you come back. Yeah, you got the right one, baby, this time, and it happens and it works with you. But you have to know that she's that woman for you. You have to know that he's that man for you. And like we were talking about earlier, understanding her purpose, understanding what she wants from you, and to piggyback from the guys a little bit, you got the book, Men Are from Mars, Women Are from Venus. It happens like that, where we give that chase, then the girl backs off, or the girl wants to be involved with us, and then we back off because we think it's something different, where both of us need to come together and understand one another, and like ask those questions, like Lisa was saying, ask those hard questions. Who are you? What do you want? How are we going to make things work between the both of us? How is it going to happen? Really?
Definitely.
Yeah.
I come from, I'm probably not the majority of people. Okay? I'm very rare in this thought process when it comes to dating and finding your mate, because I did everything unorthodox. It was just not the normal way of doing things, because I didn't think that it was an actual structure of finding the person that you're in love with. I think that a lot of times we like to attach these rules and these games and everything else, and when it's the right one, it's just the right one.
Agreed.
And I say that because, look, I'm not going to be just knocking myself a lot, but I'm going to keep it real at the same time. I found my wife, who I think is my dream girl, right? And I didn't have a pot to piss in. So that whole checklist of he needs to be make 6 figures a year. He needs to, have his career in line, all of these standards and checks. Not only that, I came from a previous marriage. I already had a child. I mean, I had all the things of the do nots. Nope, don't want that. Don't want this, don't want that, right? And that never stopped me from pursuing the person that I wanted to be with, right? And not just that, what I'll also say is I allowed myself to know that who I am personally, like my personality, knowing where my heart was at, that was good enough, right? But for my wife to be able to see that in me, where she was not my wife at the time, right? And for her to see the potential that was there. I mean, because she could have said, these are all red flags.
Right.
Right? These are all red flags. And they were. They were. But at the same time, she knew where my heart was at. Exactly. She asked specific questions. She knew about specific actions. So she goes, wait a minute, you were previously married. Why were you previously married? What happened? Oh, you had a child at a young age. And you tried to do the right thing and you married her. Okay, that means that you have a certain set of values and beliefs. Right. There was character that was there that she was looking at. Exactly. It wasn't what was on this sheet of paper, right? That all these things had checked off. Not only that, but I hear certain things from, I have a lot of single friends too, and they're always trying to find someone or whatever the case is, but they have these rules. No, I don't want to mess with anyone that I go to work with. Yeah, well, that's how I found my wife.
Exactly.
How I found my wife. We was in the office together. Like, that's where I found her. Like, for me, it's like that's something that you have in common together. You're working at the same place, but people have a lot of rules that they put in place, but then they only limit to where they're going to find someone at a club or a bar.
Exactly.
Mostly people are single and young college students that aren't really looking for marriage to begin with, right? But that's where they limit where they want to find certain people. So for me, I've always been outside the box. When I try to give people certain advice about how to find someone, they're always like, "Nah, man, that's not how you do it." And, you know, I mean,
thanks, Key.
I go to that because I'm like, even men have this mindset, and I actually think this is a true or a real mindset a man should have. I need to have my career in place. I need to have my finances together, because if I can't take care of myself, how can I take care of the person that I want to be with, right? But with that same mindset, it's like, why can't I have a helpmeet to get me there? No one thinks about that as well, because we all start somewhere. And if it takes you until you're 37 years old for your career and finances to finally get in place, you used and abused. Women ain't really interested in you now. You're getting older, right? As a man, things are different now, and your mindset's different. You've been messing around with a lot of single women, and you see they've kind of been messing around. You probably, to contribute to what you're saying, Taralyn, is that a lot of men had so many experiences with other women that may have been committed in another relationship, right? That were out there just messing around, doing all types of things. So a lot of men start getting jaded by these women, and they go, she ain't the one because she kind of reminds me of this one I used to mess with on the side.
Oh, wow.
They have these experiences where they're just like, nah, I don't know what the right one looks like, because they've been playing around in the field for way too long, because they're waiting for their career to get in place, right? So they play these games for so long, they don't know when the right one is in front of them. You know?
Quick question.
See that?
I said a lot of stuff there, but
No,
out there because
I want to know, when is the age that men mature then? I mean, we keep talking like we're talking about these young men. You know, I just don't get it. I just can't hold to that. You know what I'm saying? That's fine for some 30-year-old or even 40-year-olds. You know what I'm saying? Because it takes men some time to get through those stages. But I mean, we have too many men 50 and over that are still acting like these 20 and 30-year-old men. You know what I mean? And acting. But what I'm saying,
they know what they're doing.
When we start talking about compromise,
now that's the conversation, Key.
You know what I'm saying? It's just like, come on already. I mean, at some point or another, ain't you tired? Do you guys get tired of the game? I know Charles was talking about how all men are dogs, and it's their nature to just want more and get more and all this other stuff. But my thing is at some point, like you said, you can go, Rose said you could go out and get, vagina, go around the block and get vagina. But some men over their 50s don't need to be, what, they gonna grind them to death? Because a lot of them can't even be doing what they claim they want to do. You know what I'm saying? You need to be seriously coming up with something real worth having, because that's going down south real quick. You know what I'm saying?
Lord.
So my thing is at some point you should know that it ain't about how much vagina you can get, because you can't do nothing to get it. You know what I'm saying?
Well, he can grind them, okay?
Grind them.
Let him live his life.
And then you got health issues on top of that. And that young girl ain't going with you to no doctor. She ain't gonna know about you taking your meds, and she ain't gonna know about you going through. I mean, we talking like these men stay healthy and strong forever. They do not. Okay, you got all of this stuff on your list about what kind of woman you want. Your belly is getting big. You're tired. You can't walk a block. You don't exercise. You know what I'm saying? And you sitting there telling me how I need to be glad because you taking me out here. Really? I don't think so. You know what I'm saying?
I have a feeling this is like real personal experience. Really, he's taking us to church right now, y'all.
And I'm like, I don't mind compromising and working with you, but let's keep it real. No, I may not be 21, but guess what? You ain't either. You know what I'm saying? We grown folks having a grown conversation, and certain things we should be able to say and take at each other's word and be ready to just say, look, let's make these last years our best years. You know what I'm saying? So I just don't get where we always act like men are these gods that should just be understood, you know, that they're just men and they, you know, no, we have to be accountable. You have to be accountable. And it shouldn't be, I have to be strong enough to deal with your bad habits and know who I am as a woman so that I can deal with your bad habits. Really?
But in all fairness, there's bad habits on both sides.
Well, I'm saying you made the elegy, whatever. You made this thing about, you know, or one of you men did about how, you know, maturity. We supposed to understand the man, you know, and that, you know, if we know who we are as a woman. Now, what if we do know who we are as a woman and our man do run out and he does these things? So because we know who we are as women, we're supposed to say, that's okay. He's going to come back because he knows
not at all.
Are we supposed to just start all over and meet some guys that's equally as mature or less and don't even hold the same kind of commitment to you because you don't have the inroads in his life that you had with your husband? You spent all your youth and your time building inroads into this man and into your family and what you're building. And now you don't have that history with that other person that you're trying to meet. Who wants to start all over again at that stage of the game? So a lot of people end up staying in it because they don't want to start all over again at that point in their lives, you know? Mm-hmm. And so I did all of this to earn a bad man, to just accept the fact that I'm never going to be loved the way that I wanted to be loved. I mean, these are some of the things that I discuss with women, you know, and even with men. I meet men who are in complicated situations, you know, they are good men. And like you said, I could see the potential in them, and they had bad experiences. They didn't get divorced. They're still married, but they're trying to find out if it's even worth getting a divorce because of what's out here and what they're used to versus what they can see themselves having in the future. And can they even be happy because they've been unhappy so long? And then they meet you and they say, God, there's a possibility to have this every day, to have this kind of joy, this kind of experience, all of these new things, go to these new places, you know? And it's like, do you wait for this man to get a divorce knowing that they're separated and they're not working out? Or do you just move on and just say, well, he has potential. He's a great guy and he's doing everything that I need him to do. He just so happens to be married and is trying to figure out how to get out of it.
No. So you unpacked a lot.
We went from grinding to him being being married, and
I'm just saying. I'm just talking about in the single world today because see, most
I hear you
married, and you're not dealing.
I've only been married since March, just so you know. Okay, I've only been married since March.
I think Dr. Dean is the great person, especially being married to the same woman twice. Dr. Dean, when did you guys get? How long have you been married since the second time?
Okay, so since the second time was very recent, because we had the divorce, but we had the kids, and we saw the potential between the both of us, and we understand legacy and the family and our purpose. See, my father being a PK, when she got pregnant, it was either be silent or leave the church. And we didn't have that love like we thought we were going to have. So we went through our ups and downs and our separations and different things like that. And then we found ourselves, dated other people, did what we did, and came back together and decided we need to make this work. We need to have this family. We need to build the structure. Let me tell you something. Love Radio Network, where it's at now, really probably wouldn't be really where it's at without that purpose of her in my life recently, because like then her coming on board brought so much more to our relationship. So you got to have that understanding. And like Lisa's saying, yeah, you have some people out there that will play and willy-nilly and won't be truthful. And are you supposed to wait? No, you're not supposed to wait. Know who you are, know your foundation, and build it from there. That's what I'm saying.
I got you. And this second time around, Dr. Dean, how long have you guys been married?
Now I probably want to say about 4 months.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow, congratulations. It's like newly newer than Billy and his wife.
There's hope in the house.
Really quick, Taralyn, I want to touch on, because one of the things that you said, Lisa, was about, am I supposed to start all over? I've invested, and that's what one of my really good guy friends and I we have conversations about the importance as men of protecting the investment. Yeah. Your family is your investment, and as you make these investments, there's going to be things that seem shinier, that seem better, that seem more peaceful, that you're going to want to gravitate to. But as the protector of your family, not just physically, it is your role and responsibility to protect that investment. However, what I had to learn for myself in that protector role in my previous relationship was that I personally no longer wanted to be that protector. Not in the sense of I didn't want to keep that investment safe. It was like, man, we have all these things that we've invested all these years, and now I'm supposed to just walk away from this. However, I understood within myself who I was and realized that me walking away allowed me to maintain the individual that I want to be, whether I'm a husband or not. Right. Because if I stayed to protect the investment, what I was going to do was I was going to destroy it. I was going to become the husband who was out having 6 other different affairs with other women, when the person that I said I loved and cared about didn't deserve that. And so maturity-wise, I had to make the decision and say, that's not what I want. That's not who I want to be. And I love us both enough to walk away and risk not being with anyone ever again and starting over. I'm willing to do that. So it brings me to the question is, when we are disappointed, disappointment is natural. When things don't work out, when we've invested years, when we invested hours, shoot, things can be disappointing if we invested 2 hours and the date didn't go as planned. But that disappointment is a natural process, and staying in a relationship because you don't want to experience that disappointment does not help the relationship. But the question would be is, what is our fear of spending 13 years? Because I've spent 13 years with this person. The fear is that we've wasted time. But if we could really understand the concept of time, that time that has been spent cannot be respent. So therefore, it was an investment. And because it can't be respent, everything that we got to experience in that time was a gift. It was a blessing, good and bad. Because the person I am today, I'm a better person today, even because of the bad things that I experienced in that 13-year experience. Mm-hmm. And so I think sometimes it's just us looking at the perspective of, even if I'm not in my 50s, I'm in my 40s, but even in my 50s, even if my wife and I, if I was a widow or we went our separate ways, looking at the time that I got to spend with this person was pivotal in the person who I am constantly evolving to become. And so I get that some people are not going to be there. And I'm never going to tell anybody to lower any non-negotiable standards. If you have a non-negotiable standard, my expectation is that you hold that, but be true to that standard. Don't be wishy-washy on it. Right. But on the other side of that is, we got to, especially if we're believers, we got to operate in some spaces of grace. Right. Because I know that when my ex and I got together, I was on welfare. I was a single father. I didn't really have a lot going on for myself. However, I had what I tell people, I had what I call actionable potential. Mm-hmm. Some potential that was there that could actually be achieved. Not just, oh, well, he could be a good man if I work with him. You know what I mean? Like, no, like I had some character, like he said, some character about myself that said he could truly achieve these things. And years later, I'm achieving a lot of the things that maybe didn't look like I would have achieved at that space or at that snapshot in my life. So I always think about what is our fear? Because for me, I have zero fear of being alone. I love my wife. I enjoy our time together. I enjoy our time apart. However, I have zero fear of being alone. And I know what I bring to the table in any relationship, as an employee, as a husband, as a father, as a friend, as a coworker. I know what I bring to the table. So if the relationship doesn't work, I don't lose what I bring to the table because a relationship doesn't work.
Right.
The only thing I've lost is time, but whatever I got in the time that I lost because I spent it with maybe the wrong person or a person, this is the other side. You might meet somebody who's got it all together, and because they are evolving, they might evolve or devolve into something that they weren't before. I have drug addicts in my family, and I have seen some of the brightest, sharpest minds go from here to the gutter based on life choices. And it only took 2 or 3 of those choices to take their trajectory from up all the way back down to ground zero. So I always think about these things when I'm looking at, even when I was dating. Hey, do I want to go on another date with this person? I spent 2 hours with them. I'm not really feeling it. I spent an hour driving to their location. I don't think I want to make that investment, because I'm a person who tries to make sure I'm very conscious of the time that I'm spending with people, because I don't have a whole lot of time. But I also realize that even as successful as I am at this point in my life, that can change. That can be something different tomorrow because of a couple of poor choices. That can be something different tomorrow because of the economy and economic pressures. That can be different tomorrow based on a brain injury. That can be different. And so I've really learned to embrace what people have to offer in the now, because that is all that I'm guaranteed. I just had 4 deaths in my family in the last month. And
loss.
Yeah, it's been everywhere. It's actually good we had a 3-week break, Taralyn, because it was everywhere. But in that, it's like you start realizing the mortality of your human experience. And to Dr. Dean's point, the importance of what your legacy is, and upholding that family structure legacy, and having the ability to say, I divorced this person, which meant I didn't want to be with them. I legally went through a process to not be with this person. And then to legally go through a process, and the pride that you have to swallow, because your ego will get in the way of that. Oh, when I tell somebody I'm done, I'm done.
Yeah.
Right? But the pride that you have to swallow and say, but if this is God's best for me, or if this is what I foresee is the best for me, or feel like what's best for me, feel like what's best for my investment, then to swallow that pill, put that to the side and say, this is what I'm going for. So I'm definitely not on the build a bear campaign, build a man, build a woman campaign. That's
I only said that, build a bear.
You and me, Lisa. No, that is a thing.
No.
I don't want to pick your chain and your cardigan. I'm good.
My we should go with another one of her build a bear projects. And stop being a social worker. Stop always trying to help folks and just be you.
Right. You got to bring something to the table, but at the same time, I feel like, again, it is, what are we afraid of? Because I mean, even in the word, it talks about how we were basically put here to connect with one another. Yes. We were not put here to have an isolated experience. This is why we have language. This is why we communicate with each other. This is why we have things like this, and friends and family, because we were truly designed to connect. We were not designed to be alone. Exactly. So in that experience alone, just even if you get somebody who is, I'm not saying compromise, but if you get somebody who's a little off or might seem like they need a nudge, even if you're not going to be with them, it doesn't hurt to say, hey, you know what? I don't see the romantic connection for you and I, but here's some things that are concerns for me that maybe are blind spots for you. See, this is I never give advice to anybody who doesn't give me the ability to give them that, but I am willing to give that. Hey, why didn't we go on another date? Hey, I'll give you that all day long. We didn't go on another date because you introduced me to your 4 kids on the first date and then tried to sleep with me with them in the house. Yeah, no, I'm not interested in any of that. And that doesn't call for a second date. Like, I'm okay giving that information.
Wow, you must have
Wait,
right.
now that sounds personal.
It is very personal.
Sounds like history right over here.
There's some history there.
That's crazy.
But that is my thing, is really just figuring out how we're going to protect our investment, how we're going to honor the time that we can't go back and get, gleaning what we can learn from that time. And then not overly, to Key's point, and I think, Lisa, your point as well, not overly comparing what the past was in accordance to what the present is.
Exactly.
Because who I was yesterday, I mean, I've had people try to use who I was 10, 20 years ago against me today. And I'm like, you're not even talking to the same on the cellular level, all those cells have left my body. You're not even talking to the same cells. So why are you talking to me about something I did 10 years ago, 20 years ago? Because I don't allow that to hold lordship or power over my life. And then people kind of get in their feelings sometimes when you're like that. But it's like, we have to operate in grace even for ourselves. Mm-hmm. And so I'm not going to continue to pick up the weapon that the enemy has taught me to use to beat myself delirious with, and continue to beat myself with it 10, 15, 20 years later. And even, 10 more years from now, I'm sure I'm still going to be making mistakes. I'm not going to come in infallible. And there's some mistakes that are going to just follow me naturally. That some mistakes don't go away. It just is the way consequence works. Some mistakes stick with you for the remainder of your journey. And if that's the case, I would hate to go into an experience and then be shunned. And I'm not saying you're shunning, Lisa, but I'm just saying to be shunned because I made a mistake that followed me home and stuck with me.
Right.
And that's where, for me, when I think about this topic, his mystery, her prize, it's understanding all those micro components to put them together to make a macro picture. And once you have that macro picture, being able to say, this is what I bring to the table. My wife and I'm a great communicator, but my wife and I struggle with communication from time to time. We struggle and we argue, but one of the things I can say is I'm also a person who is committed to growth. Exactly. So if we do have a conversation that goes left, that goes right, I will come back and communicate, hey, there's going to be times in these conversations because of my upbringing, because of my history, that I need to take a break from the conversation because I go from like 0 to 10 to 15. I don't really have any single digits numbers after 0. So I have to make sure that people understand, like, hey, when we're talking, like, let's be okay if I say, hey, I need a minute. If I stop talking, it's because I realize that the next thing that's going to come out of my mouth is probably not going to be productive to the conversation. So I'm going to sit and listen. Or if I feel like we're going in circles, I'm going to sit and listen and let you listen to yourself go in circles. And when you get it, we'll both have understood that we were going in circles, and then we can restart that conversation. But those are challenges. I mean, it could, my wife easily could have been like, I'm not going to have a man who yells at me. I'm like, well, no, I don't go around yelling at people. That's not who I am. But I also am very defensive. Like I'm an A-type aggressive personality. So if somebody comes at me, they don't even have to yell. But if I perceive it as aggression, oh, we're doing aggression? That's my wheelhouse. I grew up with domestic violence. I know aggression all day long. So like those are the things. And when it comes to getting to his mystery, it's for men that we have to figure out, like, what are the things that are important to us? What are the things that we're bringing to the table? But then also the prize aspect, when it says her prize. And initially when I wrote this, I think I put a question mark at the end of it.
You did.
Her prize is almost as if, what is the prize?
Yeah, that's what
with my wife, I know the prize. I have a woman who is willing to support the things that I do, but is also willing to grow in the things that she does and allow me to support her in the things that she does. That's the prize. So when you have that prize and you understand that if you leave that prize on the table, somebody else is going to pick it up.
There you go.
And if you go out to try to find that prize again, you may not find that prize.
Exactly.
So having that prize is really a two-sided value. It's the value in which the woman has in herself and the value that the man can ascertain from interacting with that woman. If one of those aspects are missing, I don't care if you can lay golden eggs and everything you touch turns to gold and you got every recipe from everybody's grandma that tastes fire. It does not matter. At the end of the day, the man will end up walking away because he cannot perceive the value.
Right.
I love how Key, when you were talking, you talked about basically reframing our mind around where and how to connect with people. Just allowing some of those things to happen organically and don't put up all of these blockades as to what you're not willing to do. And a lot of that stuff, I believe, is based on old stuff. Maybe they dated somebody back when they were in their 20s and had a bad experience at work. You were 20. I bet a lot of it was both of y'all's fault. You were in the lost decade, you know? So a lot of those things, a lot of those expired thought processes, we tend to hold on to year after year after year after year. They're no longer applicable because, like how Billy was talking about, completely and totally different cellular being, yet you're still holding on to a bunch of things that are no longer relevant. So I think that taking the time to be intentional about staying plugged into the now.
And the now. That's right.
Anything that happened before, take the lesson, leave everything else, and stay plugged into the now. Be open and flexible for now. Being malleable for any moment is always going to be something that's going to be more productive than anything else, which proves to be counterproductive. I mean, look at how many people who are out there seeking and hurting and unable to connect because of expired experiences that they've held on to, expired processes, all these different barricades and boundaries and judgments and blah, blah, blah. Just goes on and on. It just doesn't have to be as complicated, I believe, as we've made it, you know. So yeah, y'all, I'm gonna tell you, it's been quite a conversation. Lisa,
Yeah, I mean, but I'll tell you, a lot of these single people, they do that stuff just off of things that can easily be changed with someone else. You know what I mean? And it gets annoying because I'm like, wait a minute, you mean to tell me you won't talk to her because she weighs under 135?
Mm-hmm.
Like she has to weigh 135 or more, and that's the only way that you want. Like, you know, she can eat weight gainers if you wanted to. Like, you know, like you have certain things that are in there. Or, you know, some women say even the height thing, like he has to be at least this. So I'm like, you are limiting your chances because there could be this dope man that is 5'8" that will rock your world.
you hear me?
But you can't even see past that. You're like, nah, I got to be attracted to him physically. It's like, yeah, everything else looks good. It's just the height, right? Same thing with the woman. If her toes ain't right, what was that, Boomerang?
Yeah. And even the comedian, he said, you got purple nail polish and red on your toes. What was it? What's his name? The little short cat.
Like you can't change your nail polish color.
He's still doing it.
Is that plum? Is that plum and cherry?
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
I'm guilty of that because I did meet a really nice guy and he was like 4'11". I didn't know because he looked big and sit down. And when I got to the restaurant, he was already seated. You know what I'm saying? And so I sat down and the conversation was great. And when he stood up to walk to, I said, Lord Jesus, I thought he was still trying to stand up. This dude was so little. And I'm only 5'3", and I was looking down at him trying to, I just couldn't. It scared me. I'm just gonna tell you, it was too much.
I got set up on a blind date with a little person one time, and he stole my coat. I'm gonna tell you that. No, for real, he did. He did. I don't. Yeah, but yeah.
But he was a little too tiny. It was like the little people was coming out.
And the little person, that was a long time ago. That was a long time ago. That wasn't recent. I'm 5'6", so if you're a little person, and I wear 3 and 4 inch heels, so you can imagine what that
and
was.
I had the nerve to have on just a 3-inch heel. You know, it was too much. I just couldn't. I just couldn't.
And here's the thing. I think that's okay to be like, yeah, this is a height level that I'm uncomfortable with. Like I think that's
Well,
okay.
that's when people come and say, "Oh, y'all such a cute little couple," you know.
Cute little. That part right there.
Cute little.
Right.
Cute little couple, you know.
And
Yeah.
and Billy, granted, see, here's the thing. I don't have a problem with that type of communication at all. It was just I think my face said that because I was shocked it was a blind date.
I think I was
So-
shocked too because that was
And he
my first
pulled
date,
up,
you
boy,
know?
he pulled up in this Escalade. I mean everything, and I'm not even whatever. I ain't crazy about it. Nice car, whatever. And he was sitting in the car, and so he pulled up and I got in the car and this and that. It was dark down there by what legs are with the Escalade or whatever. I didn't see all of that. Wasn't until we got to the restaurant that he hops out of the car. And I didn't see him for a minute, but it still didn't click. And he comes around the car and it comes to the other side and he opens the door and I'm just sitting there like this.
Yeah, I was scared.
And what I wasn't, I sat there for a minute and then, I get out, you see the pumps come out the truck and everything. And I get out. It was when I stood up and he held the door for me that it was that part right there. I was just so he, usually if a gentleman holds the door, you walking around with him, he's like way down here. That it was very awkward. And then when we got to our booth, he's hopping up on the seat, and
it's too much. It's too much.
We finished dinner and everything. I just
taller than me. Be taller than me. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, no, we finished dinner and everything, and it was cool. It was really nice. He's a nice guy. Just I the whole time I was in shock. It was terrible. I should have been handled that better. I did. I mean, I don't know. My face is bad.
I know, and I'm the same way. You probably
anyway.
My experience. I was like, Shawty,
I can't with y'all.
This is all true. This is all true.
These stories are crazy.
I don't have anything against short people. So if any short person, I apologize.
Well, short is different than a little person.
My preference is to have you at least taller than me.
Yeah.
5'9", 5'8", 5'9". That's
you just said that she blocked a lot of people out. He just told you about that. Did you hear what he said? Rewind.
I know.
You watch this back.
I know.
But you know what? I mean, that has been the problem with most of us in relationships. It has always been a preference over what could be purpose. So, like Ro was saying before, what is it that you want out of that relationship? And you never know, just because you don't come to the table being fully loaded and having everything, in that relationship. You push him aside or you push her aside, but you don't see what the purpose could be a year from now, 2 years from now, 5 years from now. You just never know how things can turn around. And you'd be like, I would have never dated the pool boy. I would have never dated the girl behind the counter at McDonald's, whatever the case may be. But down the road, all of a sudden you have, so many blessings and things in that relationship. And you don't have the headaches and the problems that you would have had with that, sorry, ladies, very fine woman that every man is trying to chase, or that man that wants to be out there with every woman and different things. You have that wholesome couple that's going to make things work between the two of them.
And I'm trying to figure out what part of that were you sorry for, Dr. Dean? You didn't say anything wrong. I'm that fine lady that they try to chase. It's a hard thing I try to shake off, but it is what it is,
Well, what it is that with us as men, and we have that vision of what we want in a woman, and then all the guys are looking at us. Sometimes we can have this insecurity about the woman, and because of who we are as a man, it causes conflict between the relationship. Where you going? When you coming in? Why is he looking at you? Why are you wearing that? Why don't you put on some flats instead of always wearing heels? Why you gotta, she's well endowed. She has hips, she has legs, whatever. That's how you got her. It's like the guy in the strip club who marries the girl, but then expects her to leave. You can't do that. She is who she is. Let her be who she is, and don't try to change her, and just be the man or be accepting as who that person is. And you guys take all that nonsense out the relationship and just get to the foundation of coming together. I can't read your mind. You can't read my mind. Like you said, he read the book. Let's talk about chapter 6. Let's find out what our goals and dreams are. Let's work together. If I'm going to work at the strip club, let me go. You met me there. If I was a dancer and the women were coming after me, okay, let's talk about me leaving or stopping, what we going to do. Michelle Obama said, if you're going to take something away from them, put it in place as to what you're going to give them to replace it. So if I'm asking you to do A, B, and C, how are we going to come together and make this work for us? And it doesn't have to be that drastic. It could be, I got a job in another city, another state. How are we going to talk about this? We're going to move the kids. We're going to go here. We're going to go there. Let's talk about it to make it work, because it doesn't have to be the strip club that breaks up the relationship. It could be he got a job in another city. She got asked to run a company in another state. And I'm not leaving. And then that breaks up the relationship. You had purpose. You just never know. But because we are conditioned to, wanting to be strong, or I'm not going, my family say I've been here all my life, this, that, and the other. Forget that, just.
Well, I agree with you, Dr. Dean, in regards to purpose, understanding that you have a purpose to be together, because unequally yoked is just not two unbelievers. You be two believers and still be unequally yoked. And I think about the fact of Homer and Hosea and Gomer. Everybody always say, where's my Boaz? But what if God commands you to, or tells you to marry someone like, she was a prostitute, and God told this holy man of God to marry this prostitute? You know what I'm saying? You look at Adam and Eve, first two men and women, according to scripture, and they sinned right there, and there was nobody but two of them, right? So you never know who's going to be perfect for you, or who's not going to be perfect, or if there's purpose involved in you being in this person's life. If God wants to use your coming together to show his love, his forgiveness, or his ability to redeem, you know what I'm saying? So we never know why someone is coming into our lives. And I'm not opposed to a godly connection. Like I said, my husband and I, well, my deceased husband, my late husband, when we got together, third date, he asked me to marry him. He said, God, what do I have to do to have her? Because I want her. God said, you're going to have to take care of her. He made a commitment to God. So whether I deserved it or not, and I was not the perfect wife, we had our issues, we had our things we dealt with. Because of his commitment to God, he said, I'm going to do what I have to do, because she ain't going to make me mess up my commitment that I made to God to be there and to take care of her. So, you might have a commitment that you are making to someone, and you might not be perfect for each other at the time, but where you're going and where you're headed, God knows that when you come together at that point, you're going to be perfect for each other. So I'm not opposed to, being with someone that I feel is the right one, even if it's not perfect right now. Perfection is boring, for starters. And I like a little spice, and I like getting to know a person. I like having those conversations, about how your day was, what's going on. I don't want to know everything, and I don't want you to always have the perfect answer. I don't want you to answer all of my questions. Sometimes I just want to be heard. You know what I'm saying? And I get that with the gentlemen. Sometimes they don't want me to play mother nurturer, or, social worker, or Pastor Lisa, to them. They just want me to be their girl, be that sexy, cool friend. You know what I mean? Be the one they can chill with, and I'm down for all of that. You know what I'm saying? It's okay. I don't have to have the perfect person all the time, because I'm not perfect all the time, but like we said, at least let me know that you're in it to win it. And if there's something that is not going right, you're going to at least give me the opportunity to fix it before you go and disrespect what we're trying to build. Give each other that respect of coming to each other first and saying, look, this isn't working for me. Let's either try something different or agree to disagree. But this isn't working for me. And that's my whole thing. Be respectful about it. Don't embarrass me, because I'm not going to embarrass you.
See, that's the thing. Fair. Hosea loved him some Gomer. Woo! But he was like, she for the streets. Lord, help me, she for the streets. But God, what did God say? God said, "Go buy her back."
Yes.
Oh, wait. She was already mine. She went out on the street. Now I gotta go buy her.
And she had children for other men that he was taking care of.
Right. So that parable to me, what I think that parable is that you might be so in love with someone that they have a lot of work, and God says, "No, get that person. That's the right person for you." To what you're saying. But I would also say this: that perfect guy or that perfect woman, meaning beautiful, everything. I think Dr. Dean was talking about this. That person has options. And they keep coming. And that person does not have to do anything to get those options. They just stand there and they just come.
Just throwing it at them.
So yeah. so you can sit there and say, "Oh, I want the person that has this, that." And like you said, perfect is boring. But I'll tell you this much, you might be a little bit more thankful if you find someone that's less perfect.
That's right.
You might be
more appreciative.
Yeah. And and only that, but you have to be okay with probably some things that you might not be okay with somebody else. I was watching some YouTube. I forget what it's called. It was talking about like high value men or something like that, and they're talking about the higher you go up with these high value men, they like to check out their options, and you got to be okay with it. Now you might be the main one, and they may not embarrass you. They probably be straight up front with you and tell you, "Hey, I like to check out my options, but I'm never gonna embarrass you. You could do the same if you want. Just don't embarrass me. Don't let it go public, and that's a whole interesting thing to me. I am. That's not the way I like to rock.
Open relationships.
Yeah, but and it's interesting. It's like you got to take what goes with it, and it's
nothing is free. Yeah. Everything requires a compromise in some way, shape, or form. You will have to compromise. And that's what a lot of women who have these unrealistic expectations for men don't understand. Let's just say you got your Build-A-Bear dude and he's everything that you want on your list. That's only one side of who he is. There's a completely different other side that comes with that comes with him that you have to be okay with in order to keep him. And the average woman is not.
Purpose and preference.
What is he stuck with?
Dr. Dean? Purpose and preference.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then you don't know when they get to that person that they're trying to become, are they still going to see you the same way?
That part.
You know what I'm saying? Because that happens too. When they was nobody, now all of a sudden they dressing better, they looking better, they going to better circles and stuff like that. And all of a sudden you're the lucky one. You know what I'm saying? And he's doing you a favor. You're like, yo, you ain't even had no teeth when I met you. I just
like, yeah, but since I got insurance, girl,
you don't learn a few words, and now you sitting over here trying to tell me to have a seat. Really? You know what I mean? So you got to be careful. Know who you're dealing with, because let that person become whole. That's the only thing I'm saying. Because when I present myself to a person, I want to present, this is me. And like Taralyn said, I took myself off the market. Like Keisha said, I took myself off the market because I said, when I present myself to someone, I want them to know exactly what they're getting. I don't want to still be figuring it out. Now, I'm not saying I'm not going to be evolving and it's not going to have room to grow or whatever, but I just wanted to know that I was settled and stable within myself. And I was okay if Mr. Right showed up or didn't show up. You know what I mean? So I'm at one of those places right now. I'm good either way. Of course, we have our preference. Yeah, I'm a marrying woman. I love marriage. I love commitment. So that's not an issue for me. But guess what else I love? Me. So certain things I'm just not going to be able to deal with. I'm just not going to be able to do it. But I pray that when that person come, that I'll be the woman he needs and he'll be the man that I need, because I'm good at marriage. That's all I'm saying.
Oh yeah, marriage is love.
Can I say something real quick? I think
what you said, Lisa, um, being first of all good at marriage, right? You had that experience, and so we have like people like myself. I've never been married,
Mhm.
and so there are certain. And I'm sorry I missed some of the conversation, but no, I hope I'm not repeating. But being in a relationship, um, I think it requires us to, as we are getting to know ourselves, right? Hopefully we're continuing to learn more about ourselves, but as we're learning ourselves, hopefully we're not so self-centered that we won't take time to get to know the other person.
Mhm.
And so when, like the topic for today, um when you have a man who's not um either sure or ready to settle down, you when you're having certain when you're in a relationship and you're having conversations, I believe like earlier, the right questions, if you're not asking the right questions, you're not showing an interest to get to know that person, know what's going on with them, you know if they're avoiding certain questions, that's that's a red flag to me.
Mhm.
If you're not wanting to talk about you, that's a red flag to me.
Mhm.
And it's not necessarily a bad one. It's just they're not ready yet.
Mhm.
Um, and then it was something else I wanted to say. But I want to say thank you first of all for having this conversation, Taralyn, Michelle, and Billy Wroe. Thank you. Thank you even for those of you who joined today, because we need to have this conversation more often. I think the perspective, sometimes our perspectives are skewed. Like, I don't believe in common sense anymore. Like, there are several
Yes.
years now, I don't think there is a such thing as common sense unless it's common for you. So what may be common for me may not be common for Lisa, or it may not be common for Taralyn, and the same for the gentleman, right? So I might be looking at you like, what are you doing? And to you, that may be your norm. That may be common for you. And so the same thing with relationships. It's not common. Everything that you may think is common is not common. And so and then last, I think my last statement would be that I'm learning more about how we make assumptions. As a woman, I know we tend to, I say we as in the women that I've been around, because again, it's based on my worldview. Um, the women that I've been around have made a lot of assumptions. We make assumptions about why they didn't call. We make assumptions about why they, said what they said, and they, like Billy said, they meant one thing and we interpreted it a different way. And so not having that open conversation, like, what did you mean? Without getting offended, without snapping, without yelling, but having grown men and women conversations and saying,
Yes.
you know what?
Yes.
I thought when we got into this relationship that we were for each other. I thought when we got into this relationship, we said that we were going to communicate. I thought when we said we were was working a lot, or you knew that I was looking for a job, and I'm still looking for a job. And these are my struggles. These are my issues. But we can't make assumptions that we know what the other person is thinking, saying, or going to do if it hasn't happened yet. And then I said that was my last thing. That's my last thing.
You've been away for a little while. You can talk.
What'd you say?
You've been away for a little while. You can talk. You were absent. You
Oh.
can catch up.
I appreciate, and I'm very passionate about this conversation because of seeing so many men and women hurt, seeing so many men and women in broken relationships far too long. And it's not even, and they may be able to heal the themselves and the relationship. However, there are some things that are missing, some things that are not being done. Communication is not being had, therapy that's not being had. Spiritual, working on the spirit man that's not being done, and you know, working on yourselves individually and then collectively. So I'm very passionate about this conversation, and I think that when it comes down to it, as I think, was it what's his name, Key?
Oh,
I
Key.
think Key mentioned, you don't know what you don't know. Was that you or Billy, him or Billy? Sometimes you just don't know, right? And so there may be certain things that you're exposed to that your mate may not be exposed to. Your mate may never have been in an environment where they saw two people coming together and having a conversation that where the two parties didn't agree but can agree to disagree. That can say, you know what, I don't really like what you did, and be upset. Like this is the first relationship that I've ever been in where I look at him and I'm like, I roll my eyes at him because him saying, all right, you got 5 minutes to be mad. Just 5.
Oh,
And I'm like,
that's sweet. You have a mad maximum. I like it.
right.
I'm
Okay.
here for
Okay.
it.
You still mad? You still mad? Okay. Okay. Let me see. Okay. You got 20 minutes. And it's so funny to me, not because what I appreciate about it is that scripture, don't go to bed angry.
Yeah, I thought about that.
That is something that I lived, I feel like I've lived by that. But I've been in an environment, anybody can relate, you've been in an environment where it's okay to be angry and there are no boundaries set. There's no, communication about unpacking those emotions. You know, he is in mental health, so I guess that helps too.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
It definitely helps a whole lot.
A lot.
it does. So I'm gonna say, I see we're at the top of the hour. I just want to say as Dr. Dean said, there are many levels to this that has to be unpacked when you're in a relationship. We should not think that we can come into a relationship and think that it's just one set way of having a healthy relationship, and that we both parties need to agree to go all in. Keisha and I'm
Definitely.
done speaking.
Look like we on Clubhouse and I you the mic.
I use the mic.
This has definitely been a conversation that I'm so glad all of you guys were present for, because I don't think that there are enough conversations where the male perspective is welcome and respected, and just agree or disagree, it doesn't matter. I think that men have the right to speak their truth, and if we're ever going to bridge the gap between the sexes, we have to create spaces for that to happen, where men don't feel like they're going to be bashed because their truth is different than what a woman's is. It's supposed to be different. They're men. So I appreciate Dr. Dean taking time out of his busy schedule to join us tonight. I appreciate Key Bryant, who was always Keith drops in and out all the time, so I appreciate him checking us out here. I appreciate my lovely sisters, Miss Lisa Cleveland and Keisha Carter, for being here with us. Thank you guys so much. And you guys don't be surprised if I'm tracking you down, because Billy has the flip side of this conversation that we're going to be doing, but we'll talk more about that at another time. We can't just have a
That's
one way.
juicy.
Well, what do you think about? I'm like, all right, I think we should do it. So anyway, that is it. We are at the top of the hour for our first panel discussion of season 2. It's been so wonderful, but we got to get out of here. But that's okay. I'm the grind defined. Let me stop. This is not the grind defined. So you can tell I'm used to doing my show.
That's right.
Yes, you are.
It's second nature.
Right. It just comes. Taralyn, Michelle, and Billy Wroe Live. We are done for tonight, but that's okay. You can get more of Billy tomorrow. You know what? the Wednesday word is coming up. And if you guys are not familiar with the Wednesday word, you need to get your entire life. You need to catch the Wednesday word, if I can get my tongue to work right tonight. Catch the Wednesday word tomorrow at 6:30. That's Pacific, right? I can't listen. Even though it's on there, Billy, let me blow this up real quick. Because the sister blind. Let me let y'all know that.
Pacific Standard.
There it is. I got it. I can see. I forgot I had to adjust it. See, there go. That's teamwork, make a dream work. Don't judge me. And you have to go over to firstrow.com. If you have not checked out the book yet, what's wrong with you? Hire your job, fire your passion. National bestseller, first time out the gate. You can download the first chapter complimentary. And once you do, I know you are going to want to get the entire book, get the journal, become a part of the discussions and the conversation because they are fire. Gotta have it in your life. Now, the Grind to Find. Yep, every Friday. That is every Friday. Fresh episodes dropped at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The Grind to Find is on hiatus right now, but I will be back August 5th. I have to say this for everyone who is listening, watching. Thank you guys so much for making the Grind to Find in the top 5% of podcasts globally. Say what? Yes, it's all because of you guys. So I cannot wait to be back on air August 5th. I have some goodies that I'm going to want to share with you guys. You are not going to want to miss them. In the meantime, and between time, you guys go into the rest of your week knowing that God has you no matter what. No matter what. And we'll see you guys next week. That's it.
All right. Thank you.
Taralyn.
What I missed?
Thank
what I missed?
you.
Wait a minute.
Playbook.
Oh!
I love you so much, Taralyn.
But you guys listen. See, this is the thing. We started with it. Let me go on over here to the we did the playbook last time. We were rounding out with that. I thought it was a phenomenal idea. Am I on the right one even?
You are on the right one.
Well, there we go. So we're gonna go to the playbook before we close out. Number one for the playbook, the coach's playbook for this week, learn your deal breakers. I thought, was that Key who said that?
That was Lisa.
That was Lisa who said that.
Yes, Lisa said
learn
that.
Your deal breakers. I think that is so very important. It is not, or it shouldn't be for you, a problem to establish where you are, what you got going on, and what's important to you, rather than waste time without putting these things out there. Lisa, thank you so much for saying how important it is to let your intentions be known up front and what matters to you known up front. Next playbook is going to be don't rush the process. Absolutely. Any seed that is planted has to go through a germination process that requires food, that requires water, that requires light. Relationships are exactly the same way. That gestation process is exactly what we need to make sure that it's maturing into what we want in the long run. And last but not least, know what you have and what you have to offer, which means that I don't know who said that, but all I know is that it is so important for us to take the time to do our work to become exactly what it is that we want to attract. Whatever energy you have that you put out, you can best believe that you are going to get that back. So I want to thank all of you guys for the playbook. Yeah, Billy. See? Now you next time we're gonna do that in the right order. See, Billy got to get used to me. I thought the training wheels were off.
That's all right.
But that's okay. Anyway, now for real. Catch us next Tuesday, same time, same channels. Until then, peace and abundant blessings.
God bless you.
Thanks. Bye. Good night.